this team? Let's hear from young Adam Beckman.
Oh, I think definitely. I think, even tonight there was in a lot of areas of my game I would have liked to fix. Even on the power play, I made a couple mistakes, just mishandling the puck a little bit. And, sometimes in the neutral zone, and those are things that I got to continue to try and work on and clean up. So, there's definitely a ton of things that I think I still got to work on.
God, the guy took such a big lick in that first period. He's got a stitch on his nose. He's got a gauze up his nostril.
Yes.
The poor guy, he's got his nose plugged, so he sounds just like he literally got his bell rung. But man, hilarious clip.
He fought a guy from the Blues by the name of Nathan Walker, who absolutely cleaned his clock. I thought Beckman might have a concussion. Like, he got up sort of woozy, clearly.
Oh,
They had to come. They had to come and shovel up the blood from the ice. And so I thought, he's done. He came back and what? He scored the OT goal that won the game for the Wild. I also think, if I'm not mistaken, he had an assist, correct? But
correct.
But this is a guy, Declan Goff, who, Bill Guerin came on Judd's Hockey Show 2 or 3 weeks ago now and talked about the fact that they purposely were going to leave a spot or two open for a young player to make this roster, or two. And at the time, I think, at least I'll speak for myself, I thought, oh, they're talking about Boldy and Rossi, probably.
Rossi?
Adam Beckman has done everything possible. And I don't know if he has a career up here. I don't know if this is just a good preseason / training camp. I think the stat is he has 4 preseason goals in 3 games. But it's interesting because the Wild on what would have been now on Wednesday, I believe, picked up Rem Pitlick, the former golfer, off waivers from Nashville. And it sounds like there is a path for him, or a path that's been cleared, I should say, for him to start the season with the big club. So the initial inclination is, hold on a second here. So Bill Guerin just picked up a guy from waivers who's going to knock off a guy who probably played well in training camp, i.e. a guy like Beckman. That doesn't seem totally fair. Again, deep in thought last night in the press box, Declan Goff. I think something's up. This is total. In fact, you can play the sounder, reckless speculation.
Reckless speculation.
But here's why. Number one, Beckman deserves to make this team. And I think sending him down would send a message that goes very much against what Bill told us, which is what he probably told the team, which is, a couple of guys, or at least one guy, is going to make this roster because he was just so damn good we can't cut him. The more thought I gave this, I think Victor Rask is in trouble. Now, he played last night and played well with the B squad at center, but I don't think that means a ton. It's also interesting that like Rask and Greenway and a few vets were elected to play, were selected to play, which I wouldn't read a ton into, but I certainly wouldn't dismiss, because like when you've got Victor Rask playing with a lot of B squad guys, it's at least intriguing. And the other one who might be in trouble, which full credit, our friend Jessie Pierce from the Bar Down Beauties brought up when I talked to her about this, is Bjugstad, which makes some sense. It's not that he's not a hardworking player, but are you just going to award Pitlick a job off the street and send down a guy who has worked his ass off in camp? It just feels to me, and I'm curious if you agree with this or not, it feels to me like there might be something up behind the scenes that would lead to a surprise roster subtraction.
First, on the Pitlick side, Rem Pitlick was a pretty prolific player at the U of M, a very good player, to be honest, in college, but sometimes that still doesn't translate over to the NHL. He played well in the AHL. He scored 20 goals in 63 games a few years ago in the American Hockey League. And I believe Dean Evison even said on Wednesday morning, there's untapped potential there, and we see something in him that maybe Nashville did not. To the point of Bjugstad versus Victor Rask, there's 2 sides of this. Number one, I would rather keep Nick Bjugstad because he's cost effective, and I know what I'm getting. Like, I just know who he is. Last year, even they still, when the season opened, they tried him in a top line role and realized the guy that he was in Florida, and another, again, it's kind of similar to Pitlick, the guy who he was at the U of M in college and right out the gate with Florida, that guy's gone. That guy just isn't the player he was. But he's still a nice role player on a deep team. But the problem is, because he is so cost effective, it makes it easier also to jettison him. Where Victor Rask, who I think is a liability, makes $4 million. If you wanted to buy him out, which, by the way, I don't think you should be putting any more buyouts against your cap, which is a more unlikely scenario than anything, that it's harder to jettison Victor Rask off your roster because he makes $4 million and he's just not a very good hockey player. So it's a tough situation. And Pitlick, who, yeah, there might be something on tap there. I'm curious. I'm not like jumping for joy that they claimed Rem Pitlick off waivers, but to the Rossi and Boldy and now Beckman point, you know, you asked me 2 weeks ago when preseason first started if he could make this team because he had a nice couple showings, and I said, hey, nice showing, but I bet he goes to Iowa and tears it up. Well, after yesterday, I mean, the guy stands up for his teammates. I mean, a skilled player like that, Judd, doesn't have to do that, right? Like a naturally good skilled player. Hey, there he is. There's Gabby. Beckman doesn't have to do that, but he did.
No, he
got his bell rung.
Yeah.
But he's an offensive player and wants to show that he means a lot to this team. And then for him to also score the big time goal in overtime, and it's fourth of the preseason, I don't think it's necessarily a coin flip anymore if he makes this roster. I think he's made every case to make it. And if Dean Evison and Bill Guerin want to reward him that, I'm curious if they can do it. And they have one more preseason game here tonight again at the X. And you know, the lines looking from Michael Russo going into this game are very interesting. You know, Beckman will be with Marco Rossi and Nick Bjugstad on a fourth line role. And then Matthew Boldy moves up with Frederick Gaudreau and Kevin Fiala. So it's basically, I would say, Beckman and Boldy's really last chance to show if they want to make this roster. Beckman having a leg up on Boldy, which none of us saw coming, by the way. But Beckman has one more chance to really solidify if he wants to make this roster, and I think he's made every case to do so. So I won't be heartbroken, or I won't be completely shell-shocked if Beckman ends up going to Iowa to start the year. The roster's, I believe, now 26 players after today's cut, so they still got to make about 3 to 4 more cuts before they get to opening night in Anaheim next week. But right. Beckman's done everything you can ask of him to make this roster.
Yep, and I think that's why, with what Bill said, and I'm sure what Bill Guerin told us on Judd's Hockey Show was reflected to the team as well. I think it's really hard to cut a guy then who plays that well and works that hard, especially to bring in a guy who parachutes in like Pitlick, right? Who's not been here for camp, and now he's going to make the team. So yeah, I think that Beckman. So I think Boldy's going to make it too, and I think Beckman has to, and I think Rossi goes down, which I'm fine with. Now, what's intriguing about the lines that you just went through for tonight is that that Gaudreau Fiala line, of course, had Rask on it when they played on Tuesday against the Colorado Avalanche. Tonight it has Boldy, which is what we've been saying you should do, which I firmly believe. I think there's a surprise coming here. I think there's a surprise. And that's the one thing is Bill, and I think Dean as well, but Bill Guerin is not afraid, as we have seen front and center, to ruffle feathers, right? So it makes a lot of sense that he would make a move that would reward a player and also cost another player potentially a job, because the one thing that's really changed here, and by the way, I love this. I will love this all day. The one thing that's really changed is your name doesn't earn you a roster spot.
Correct. It's a completely different regime. And I love that too. Yeah, it would have been very, very easy to just, hey, give Beckman and Rossi and Boldy a quick look. Let's get them out of camp here. Let's not waste their time. Let's not waste our time. We know our veteran players. We know the players that are on this team. Right. But I think it says an awful lot that Guerin and Evison have literally kind of changed this culture overnight for the most part. And Beckman and Boldy and Rossi, they could all go to Iowa and tear it up. We talked on our last Judd's Hockey Show on Wednesday that for the first time, the AHL affiliate in Minnesota is actually stacked and is worth going to go see, and is going to be a fun team down in the AHL for the first time in a while. But I love that guys like Beckman are making a big time push. And look, Rossi and Boldy are your blue chip ones, but we all kind of forgot about Adam Beckman. and he's making his presence known. I think it's an awesome thing to see. I'm curious if he can crack this opening night roster in Anaheim.
Let me tell you a little bit, Dex, about Marco Rossi.
Yeah,
I
some
think
scouting reports here
I think there's a man crush going on here
with you.
with me and
Oh
Marco
wow.
Rossi.
Okay.
Let me tell you about Marco Rossi. So defensively, he has some work to do, but I mean, he's a smaller guy too. But I'm telling you right now, I saw some things last night from that position, the coveted center position, Declan. He's got some skills that you either have or you don't have. Nobody teaches you them. First period, he made a move in the slot to get a shot on goal, which was absolutely first class. Like it was an NHL move, and it was gorgeous. And it's the type of move that that the many hands of stone that have passed through these parts on that ice previously have not made. It was a great play. Now that didn't result in a goal. Did you see and I think they took away the assist. He got it initially. They took it away. Did you see what he did though on the Wild's first goal? So it was Rask's goal. He cleaned up from front. The only assist went to Greenway. Rossi initially got the second assist, but I don't know why. There must have been. I don't think there was a change of possession, but long story short, if you go back and watch that play, Marco Rossi makes essentially a blind but beautiful pass to Greenway that ends up with Rask having the puck on his stick. These are the type of things that this team has been looking for a long time. And yes, for those of you right now who are saying, well, Granlund could do that. He could occasionally, but not consistently. If Marco Rossi can do some of the things I saw last night consistently, we are talking about a guy who you haven't seen hands like this in these parts for a while,
and a position that they've been trying to covet, and we've been even complaining about Bill Guerin, who doesn't want to hear it anymore again. And to what we told Billy on the last Judd's Hockey Show, that if hey Billy, if we can stop asking about it if this is indeed Marco Rossi. If Marco Rossi is the guy, I can stop pestering you. Other people can stop pestering you about finding that number one center. And it does sound like, by the way, Jack Eichel could potentially, maybe this team is picking up a little bit more. I don't think the Wild are in on that. It sounds like the Wild might be now pulled out after looking like a front runner early on to land Jack Eichel back in the early parts of the offseason. But if Marco Rossi is it, and his skating is there and his health is there, I mean, his skill is naturally there. But the unfortunately, because of his off the ice health problems last year, he hasn't played in any type of really games for the last calendar year. So it's more than likely he goes to Iowa. I think that's honestly a foregone conclusion, to be honest. I know why he gets one more look here tonight in the preseason finale, but I mean, at this point, I don't think there's not too much he can probably do to make this roster. So you may as well, send him to Iowa, and him and Boldy will most likely start there. But I think this is Adam Beckman's possible spot now. I'm curious if he can grab it. I also don't want him to be, a potential healthy scratch and playing a minimal role. But it's awesome to see that Beckman has made a serious impression.
Don't dismiss in this game against the Blackhawks tonight at the X-Dex. Don't dismiss Boldy though being on the left wing with Fiala on the right wing and Goudreau at center. I think that's I think they're going to take a long look there.
I like that.
Again, I think there's something going on here. I really do. I feel like we're going to get one, not huge surprise, but I feel like we're going to get a roster surprise for our expectation, because we've been conditioned until now, right? To be like, well, of course that guy's going to make the team. He always makes the team. He has to. It's in his contract. So yes, I think Beckman gets another chance here, a big chance tonight to make this squad. But I think the Boldy thing, I don't know it's a given. I can't decide yet. I don't know it's a given that he starts at Iowa. And I think if he plays well on the left wing and can pull his weight there, if you're Fiala, I'm sorry. I think you're running to Bill Guerin and saying, dude, keep 12 here. 12er, man. Keep him.
Yeah.
So I don't dismiss that one. I do think you're right. I think Rossi goes to Des Moines. I think Beckman makes the team, but is no guarantee unless he thrives on that fourth line to stick around. The Boldy to me is the wild card though, because the other thing with Boldy, I think he's ready.
Yeah.
I mean, Rossi, I would say there's enough to work on there, and let him just go play huge huge, or give him huge playing time, I should say, in Iowa. He didn't play last year. Give him that opportunity to establish himself. It's going to be good experience in the American Hockey League for Marco Rossi. But I think with Boldy, I don't know that sending him down does you a lot of good. I think he's prepared to play here. And if it's at the expense of our good friend Victor Rask, I'm cool with that. I'm going to sleep well.
I'm going to sleep well too. If Rask is off this team, you said it yesterday on Judd's Talk Show, he gums everything up. That he makes things a lot more complicated. If Rask isn't here, he gums it up, he log jams you. And Boldy, look, you could make a case like, what are you talking about? He's only played 14 games at Iowa. He was prolific at Boston College. I know he's still only 20 years old. He'll be 21 in April, so he's still a kid, if you will. But I don't really think him going to Iowa and spending a whole full season there again is going to do him. I don't know what that's really going to do much for his development. I'm not saying it would reverse him, but he needs to. I think he's ready to contribute to the big club.
Yep.
And so he wouldn't be in Iowa very long.
Right. And keep in mind too, the age that you just gave is young in life. But if you're prepared in this league to play, you're prepared. Like we've seen 18 and 19-year-olds be called up and get opportunities. So like, I wouldn't say his age at this point is a detriment. I would say the detriment in Rossi's case is he basically didn't play a year. And before that, he was in juniors. Boldy was in college. Then he went and played in Des Moines. I really thought that he could have been inserted to see how he would have done in the first round of the playoffs last year against the Golden Knights. My point being is there might not be a really good reason not to play him here. And if Beckman and Boldy can contribute, it is the perfect message for what Guerin is trying to send, which is nobody gets a job based on the name on the back of their sweater.
Yeah. And from the Wild side with these Parisi and Suter buyouts, the best case scenario is that Rossi, Boldy, Beckman, all develop and they're cost effective because they're literally making under $1 million and they're going to be on bridge deals after that. You know, so that they're going to be a cost-effective player. So it's one thing to assume that hopefully these guys are great, but if they are indeed great, well, then all of a sudden those cap and buyouts don't look as daunting, and it doesn't limit you to make contributions to this team because those guys have been drafted here and are developed here and are cost-effective players while also being very good players. So, yeah, I kind of get sick of the whole, well, he's not 21 or 22 yet, so let's let him bake in the minor leagues. Or let's let him take his time at college hockey. Like, if the kid is ready, he's ready to rock. So I think guys like Boldy and Rossi are close, and Beckman obviously in that conversation too, but there's no point to just like, it's same thing with minor league baseball and a little bit different because I think obviously there is more developmental stages you have to get to as a young player. But if the guys are ready, just call them up. They're ready to go. They're ready to go.
In baseball, if you are not prepared, you are not prepared. In hockey, if you go through the steps, which include, by the way, college, then you can play. Yeah. Like we've seen it before. I just don't. I think Boldy is mature enough and enough of a talent. I mean, do I think he's going to set the world on fire? No, I don't. Do I think he's going to be damn good? Yes. I told you before. I think he has far more of a chance of being Alex Tuck than Charlie Coyle. And that's not to say that Charlie Coyle stinks because he doesn't. But we've talked about this a lot before. He definitely disappointed in expectation. I think Boldy is far more on the Tuck path, which is, oh my God, this guy's really good. And most importantly, he's really consistent, which is what drives you crazy about a huge group of guys that used to play for this team. Did we mention it's a reckless speculation Thursday? Did we mention that there is reckless speculation?
Reckless speculation
all over the place? Well,
there is.
Who's better to recklessly speculate than our friend Darren Doogie Wolfson of the Scoop podcast and also Channel 5 Eyewitness News, and he joins us next.